Okay, so do tell us name, tag, and main.
Okay. My name is Austin. My tag is Kafka, and I play Sheik.
So why don't you give us just a little bit of history on your tag, current or former, and same with your main.
Yeah. I'll start with the main because that's easier. Let me just center myself a little better. Um, I've always been a Sheik main. I've played Sheik since before I played Melee competitively. Back when I played Melee when I was a kid,
Hmm.
I played pretty much. Almost always played Sheik.
Hmm.
Um, so when I started playing competitively, it just seemed like a natural fit for me. I was like, oh, I'm used to playing this character, so I'll just continue playing her.
Hmm.
Um, that had some, there was some good things and some bad things about that, but that's the whole story really. My tag is a little bit more complicated. I don't remember. I think there was a first iteration of my tag, and I don't remember what that was. But the one that I remember being what I started competing with was my tag was ambient,
Hmm.
uh, and then at some point I became unhappy with that, and I don't quite remember. There was maybe one or two tags in between that I frankly just don't remember,
Hmm.
and then I settled on Kafka. Would you like me to explain why?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, Kafka is, if you're unfamiliar with the name, it is the name of a person. It's the name of a famous German writer named Franz Kafka. Um, I wouldn't consider myself all that much of a literary snob or a literary nerd, but I Kafka's works, and if you're familiar with a couple, there are a couple writers in the same sort of genre. Um, that kind of influenced me from a literary perspective. So that's basically just to say I really like their writing,
Hmm.
and also their works are heavily philosophical, which is what part of what motivated me to read them in the first place,
Hmm.
but also part of why I chose this tag.
Hmm. Okay. Um, Now, in terms of like melee and stuff, I guess like I actually don't know that I've asked somebody else this, but like, how would you say was the stretch between like playing melee casually and like getting into it competitively? Like you don't have to
Oh
like
my
go through
god.
all the minutia, but anything you might remember.
Yeah, uh, I played Melee when it came out,
Hmm.
when I was a kid, and then I didn't play it for a long time. Um, I think we started so I'm in kind of a group of people, including my brother Strider, Ak, Adam, Bim Bam, um, and Ernesto.
Hmm.
And we all went to high school together, and we were playing. We actually started playing PM during our lunch periods.
Hmm.
We would bring a Wii that had been modded with
Hmm.
PM on it. We would play on like a projector in our physics classroom.
Okay.
Um, so we started playing that during high school. It kind of fizzled out, but then so that was kind of like closer to where we are now when I started playing the game again in
Hmm.
whatever form that it was. And then basically I started playing it again my sophomore year of university, which was now about 5 years ago. I'm not my that's a different story, but
Hmm.
um, about 5 years ago we started playing again, and we were taking it seriously immediately.
Hmm.
Um, we had already been learning how to say waveland or wave dash or do kind of like some of the entry level stuff back when we started playing PM,
Hmm.
and when we would play it on and off. And then once we got to that 5 year ago point, we just started practicing.
Hmm.
There's a pretty distinct point in time actually where we basically Bim Bam's family was away for like a week, and we had like three TVs in that room, and we played Melee all week.
Hmm.
We would just go over there and play all day, and that was kind of what started it, I think, for all of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, would you say like in terms of like getting into the game, like how did you like what was like your feelings, like your attitude, like and your I guess I don't want to necessarily say the word goals. I feel like that gives off the wrong impression, but like kind of I
Hmm.
guess like yeah, just like the general feelings and like approach to the game, like when you were first getting into it competitively.
I think when I first started getting into it competitively, I personally didn't really have any direction.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think I started playing it because it seemed fun
Mm-hmm.
and because my friends were doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think like I think it was around the time that the documentary had come out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I hadn't watched it. I hadn't watched it at all,
Uh-huh.
and I kind of knew about the competitive melee scene because I've been gaming seriously for a long time, and a bunch of my friends were involved in the FGC.
Mm-hmm.
So I had been watching FGC tournaments, and then the Evo moment was kind of when I became very aware of it. I was actually at the time playing Skullgirls
Mm-hmm.
during the Evo
Oh,
moment,
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
and I
funny,
wasn't playing
actually.
it like super seriously, but I was like, "This is kind of interesting. I wonder what's going to happen."
Yeah.
And then I watched that Evo, uh, and so that was kind of when I started to become very aware of it. And that was about a year before I think. I think that was it. I think because I started playing in 2014, so that was in 2013, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, I didn't really have any direction. And initially, I think I was very motivated by the fact that my friends were playing it, and I wanted to be as good or better than them.
Mm-hmm.
And so just kind of a friendly competition sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, my feelings about the game, I don't think I really, I don't think I really had any beyond that. I mean, I was, I was kind of intrigued by the mechanical requirement, and it was unlike a lot of games that I had taken seriously prior,
Mm-hmm.
and um, so I was kind of motivated to say like, to kind of test myself, um, and kind of just see where it went because it was what my friend group was doing,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a cool scene. I wanted to just get involved and know the people and see what was going on.
Okay. I like that. I mean, I like the. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that's
Uh-huh.
a pretty natural entry point. I think that's that's I can only imagine playing Skullgirls at the time when like Melee was like it was like between those two games and Melee kind of
Yeah,
overtook it. It was like a
yeah.
what like and kind of maybe upsetting
It
and
was an
disappointing.
interesting, yeah, it was an interesting moment. I mean, it wasn't like I wasn't super invested, so it wasn't the end of the world for me. But
Mm-hmm.
I was definitely like, uh, I was surprised that Melee won out, and but I was, you can't help but be impressed. All the Scarlet players are super salty, but
Mm-hmm.
we did kill that game. Frankly,
Yeah. Okay.
I fully believe we killed the Skullgirls.
Okay. Um. So I guess in terms of like getting, would you say that getting into competitive melee like wholesale versus like getting into whatever you personally define as like SB melee, is it like the same for you or were they distinctly different?
They were different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because getting into Melee for me at first was about, we were playing it as a friend group.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took it. I actually was living in Philadelphia at the time, going to university in Philadelphia. So that week that I described earlier, that was during a winter break, and so I left. I went back to Philadelphia after that winter break, and I started
Mm-hmm.
playing in the scene there. I actually, oh gosh, there are some familiar faces that you would know from the Philadelphia scene
Mm-hmm.
that I then would went and played with on not like a really regular basis, but somewhat regular basis. And there was actually at the university I was at, which is Drexel University, there was a there was a sizable scene. There was
Mm-hmm.
around 20 people. Um, so that was kind of my first community in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
We were myself and a close friend of mine were going to events semi regularly and competing and hanging out and getting to know people. But I mean, it's really interesting. The When I look back, the new player experience is very odd. Like I don't really know any of those people, and I still don't. Like I never really became close friends with them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it was never really. So that scene in Philadelphia was never really like my home. It was always about like me and my close friend who I was playing with over in Philadelphia, and then my friends back home who were, my brother, who had Strider actually got into the game independently of me, which is a whole other like, really interesting phenomenon.
Okay.
Um, but it was kind of a more about my community back home even then.
Mm-hmm.
So then when I came back to Santa Barbara, that was when I got into SB Melee. When I came home and I was here, and then I was like, oh, there are events regularly, and we started going over the summer. We started going to the Hillels, um, and then I think we went to a couple of the LAN events. That was when I started getting into SB Melee,
Mm-hmm.
becoming more involved, like a member of the scene. Um, and that was like the same year. That was like 2016 or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that yeah, because I remember seeing you at a lot of tournaments, and then I remember in the 2017 to 2018 year when you were like streaming like all the tournaments and stuff, like which was like super
Mm-hmm.
super tight. I remember everyone really enjoyed, like I think Alan also mentioned in the episode before this, like that he really enjoyed having like the tournament streams and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that that's like a thing that I personally like really remember you for in like the SB Melee community. But like you definitely were like
Hmm.
a part of it like well before then. I didn't know that you and
Yeah.
Spencer got into it separately.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. I actually didn't get a chance to watch your interview with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So I'm
that's
not
fine.
entirely sure what he spoke about on them, or whether he referred to it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he and I got.
Oh, Discord crash. Pog. It's happening. We're getting it. We're getting out of the way. 15 minutes in. Oh, this is actually very similar to the other one. Sorry, Discord crashes like for me like all the time. I'm not sure if you've noticed
Dude,
that in
it's
my other episodes, but like
cool.
yeah, it always happens. There's always a Discord crash.
Yeah.
Pog
No
in the
worries,
chat for
bro.
the Discord crash.
We gotta get you that upgrade, man. That
I
PC
know.
upgrade.
I'm just gonna do it when I graduate. But you were just talking about how
At this point,
yeah, you're
yeah,
talking about how you got into it like separately.
yeah, yeah. So I got into it. I got seriously into competitive melee after high school.
Hmm.
About a year or two. Spencer got into it during high school. He and
Oops.
Are you familiar with who Water is?
Yes, I am.
Yes. So he and Water and another friend of ours. I don't remember his tag. I can't remember if his tag is what I think it is or not. But another friend of his would play regularly um, during their lunch hour.
Hmm.
And yeah, when I came back from Philadelphia and we started talking about it, it turned out that he was also playing Melee. So then
Hmm.
we kind of just unified the friend group and we just all started practicing together. Um, and the rest is history.
Hmm.
But it's pretty cool. It's weird, frankly. It still blows my mind to this day. It's kind of
Hmm.
amazing.
Yeah, no, that is really crazy.
Yeah.
At any point, did you guys consider yourself uh, because I guess like you probably never thought of yourself as like a regional thing. You thought of yourself more as like just
Hmm.
a group of friends playing. At least that's
Hmm.
how I would imagine. So
Hmm.
what was it like to then discover that there was like was it sorry if you kind of already expressed your feelings on this, but I thought I'd just
That's
ask
fine.
more directly just in case. Is like
Hmm.
what was it like to then learn that like there was also like an entire like regional scene for the game,
Hmm.
separate from like your friend group?
Oh, I was stoked.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, I was stoked. I mean, I know that for sure. I was just excited.
Hmm.
I think it's like, I, I, now looking back on it, I certainly think that one of the best things about competitive Super Smash Brothers is the community.
Hmm.
And like that's kind of how I feel about competitive games in general, especially competitive fighting games.
Hmm.
But I think I was largely excited to be able to just go see like what else was out there. I really like new things. I
Hmm.
really like the things that are totally foreign to me and to challenge myself. So feeling like I had that opportunity was great. And,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, the way I saw it back then too is I kind of saw it as a way to like just work towards something, improve myself, and make myself known.
Mm-hmm.
Just a way to be seen in a sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess sort of integrating into like the SB melee scene. Um,
hmm
what would you say like was your initial impression, and like how did that change over time, if at all?
Um, my initial impression was uh, I'm not sure how specific I can be. It was definitely, it felt like I was walking into a room where everybody knew each other.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that was a little bit that wasn't I mean that's always intimidating.
Yeah, I
So
agree. I agree.
I was intimidated. Like I remember the first time I met you, like literally everybody knew your name, and I was like, what the I was like, I was like, I don't know, like I was just nervous, I was just nervous. Like I was like, shit, like everybody here knows each other, and I hope I'm not a scrub. That was like
Yeah.
my inexperience. When you're that new to a competitive game, it, it's like, well, I hope I'm not trash, and they don't care
Mm-hmm.
about who I am because I'm
Right.
trash.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I was like, I was really nervous, and so but on the flip side, it was cool to see that everybody was. It seemed like it'd been going on for a long time. It seemed like it'd been
Mm-hmm.
going on for long enough where, like I just said, everybody knew each other's names. And I remember at the time like Rice Cake was playing, and it was like
Mm.
everybody knew who Rice Cake was. It was like, well, he's a fucking DK player.
Yeah. Yep.
And like this was Tony was playing, and it was like, oh yeah, Tony's playing. Malachi was there. I
Mm-hmm.
remember like I just remember like Malachi in particular. It was like, oh yeah, Malachi's the best person in the room. Like that was like what Ernie would say. It's like, oh yeah, Malachi's sick as hell. He's like, there's Malachi and Alan playing. And it's like, fuck, like okay, uh, this is intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, as I kept going, you meet people, I never make it far in bracket, but it's like I trying to just hang out and get to know people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I tried to just, keep that organic. Uh, I feel like I've lost your question a little bit, though.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, you're kind of just
Okay.
talking. I mean, just going through your experience, I think, kind of in a
Yeah.
way, is revealing of like your impression as well.
hmm
So you can like keep going on that train if you want to, like by all means.
Um, remind me what you asked. You
I just
asked
said
me specifically what my.
your initial
Go
impression
for it.
and how that changed over time, if at all.
Okay, right. So I was kind of on the right track. Um, yeah, over time it certainly changed, and I would say that it took me a long time to lose that feeling that I described,
Mm-hmm.
um, where I don't want to be the worst person in the room, and nobody's gonna give a shit who I am because I'm the worst person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, my inexperience caused me to hold on to that feeling for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and so especially over time, to the point we're at now, I definitely I s- I obviously you spend more time with people, you're closer to them. So that kind of was my first impression, kind of turned into just like you just kind of have to accept that and keep going. There
Mm-hmm.
was a long time where I was like, you just got to keep going. And if you just keep going, like you're just gonna like, you're just gonna improve. And
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna build those friendships and you're gonna get better at the game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but truth be told, I think there was a part of me that really blocked out the community element at first because I was super focused on the game.
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty focused on that.
Mm-hmm. I think that I think that that often happens. Like it's kind of like Alan was talking about before. Like it's hard to balance. Like he was talking about like life, and he was talking about like just school and playing and TOing and stuff. But I think like a
Yeah.
similar thing happens with like just in like engaging with the community and the game. Like as a player, like I mean, everybody manages like their sort of relationships with like the people in the community as well as like the gameplay, and usually like it's not a 50-50. It's like you're more in on one than the other at like certain points in
Right.
time.
Right.
Um, so I guess that's like a way to sort of transition to a different topic, which is that I'm kind of curious, like, what would you say, like, how would you say your relationship with the game has changed over time, as
Mhm.
well, like not just the community.
Yeah. Um, this is like one of Melee is one. So my focus on Melee is one of the like I consider it one of the biggest transformative elements of my adult life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I started competing in Melee, I was I was inexperienced in sports. I didn't really play. I played sports as a kid, but I don't really know why. I just didn't really like get it.
Mm-hmm.
Like the competitive element of it never really like clicked with me,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of just like performed action. Does that make sense? I
Yeah,
kind of just like
I think that makes
played,
sense. Yeah,
and it
yeah.
was like I remember it very distinctly. I was in Little League, and my team won, like won the whole fucking got first place out of the entire league,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't even know it until we'd won, and it
Okay.
just it just never registered with me that that
Mm-hmm.
was happening, that I was in like the winning championship game for the league.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when I started competing in Melee, the stakes suddenly became very real.
Mm-hmm.
And I really focused on that when I first started playing. I was obsessed over results. And it caused me to be like very, it caused me to be very, I had a very tumultuous relationship with Melee. And
Mm-hmm.
I have had one for a long time. I would say that it hasn't been until the last few years, probably until shit, it's 2021. Fuck.
Mm-hmm.
2018, I think. Around the time around the time I started, or kind of in the middle of when I was, yeah, kind of in the middle of 2018,
Mm-hmm.
um, is when I kind of stopped, or I started putting much more effort into not worrying about results.
Uh-huh.
And I started worrying more about, okay, can I sit down and practice? And can I practice something? And can I just be diligent?
Mm-hmm.
Because what I realize is that if I stop, for one, I need to stop comparing myself to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're competing in tournaments, when you look at the end of the day, or when you get to the end of the day and you look at what happened, all it is a bunch of comparisons. Who beat who lost, who did better,
Mm-hmm.
so on and so forth. You don't see the minutia. And I stopped paying attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
I started paying attention to, okay, if I sit down and practice, what can I get done? And then can I translate what I practice into a game,
Mm-hmm.
into a competitive game? Um, and began to focus much more on my, my progression, my learning, and my performance.
Mm-hmm.
And my mental game improved as a result.
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of I would characterize just as a whole my relationship with Melee, the change in my relationship with Melee, as going from this like really results focused, results oriented approach
Mm-hmm.
to a far more holistic, uh, far more far more holistic, slow growth approach.
Mm-hmm.
That's just I just worry about, you know, did I perform to in a level that I find satisfying? And
Mm-hmm.
then if I don't get angry about it. I used to get very angry, and uh, I consider myself lucky that people were willing to stick around for
Mm-hmm.
that. But and so I characterize that as the biggest transformation of my adult life because like that whole experience has taught me skills in other places, and
Mm-hmm.
it's allowed me to grow in like a lot of different ways, and I'm like super stoked about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah.
All right. I mean, that's really cool. I think I mean, it's definitely up there for me as well. Like I
Hmm.
relate to you with like the things kind of uh, like coming back to it in a way. Like I know that a lot of people sort of there's like sort of lenses to view life through. Like some people see
Hmm.
like things in certain ways. Like I my like lens for life is kind of like writing, but the
Hmm.
secondary one is definitely like melee. Like those are like the
Hmm.
two ways that I kind of it's like I like when something's happening in life, like I bring it back to like one of those two things most frequently.
Hmm.
And like so I can definitely empathize with you on that.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess in terms of like playing the game, what would you say is like how do you view, I guess, the difference or like the relationship rather between like the mental aspect of the game, like all the things that go into like, you know, mentality as well as just like thinking about it and like all that versus like the
Hmm.
physical like mechanical element of like, you know, executing stuff and like playing it in that way.
How would I characterize the relationship between the two?
Or like yeah, how would you talk about each of them, like compare, contrast,
Okay.
etc.
Um, in my experience,
Hmm.
so that is to say, I think this is what for me as a player
Yeah,
is
that's
really
what I'm
the
interested
case.
in for sure.
Yeah. Um, my mental game needs to be my priority.
Hmm.
I am an incredibly technical player. I think that's I feel confident that I can say that.
Hmm.
I'm not a Fox main, so I'm not doing like really ridiculous stuff,
Hmm.
but I am very concerned about frame data. I'm concerned about basically every element of technical analysis that you can
Hmm.
apply to Chic. Um, but if I'm not approaching the game properly, none of it matters,
Hmm.
and none of it ever will, because I'll flub, I'll undermine myself, I will miss input, I will rush an input,
Hmm.
I will do a number of things wrong that will completely destroy any game plan that I would have had.
Hmm.
Yeah. So for me, mental game is huge, and
Hmm.
that's been my biggest Achilles heel for a long time. Um, Technical ability is important. I mean, mainly in particular is I've started playing a couple other fighting games. Technical ability is huge in melee, and I think I personally feel like I overemphasized it. There's a lot I have to learn still about playing a player
Hmm.
and about things that aren't necessarily related to technical prowess. But at the end of the day, um, I would put mental game above technical ability.
Hmm. Okay. Would you say that when it comes to like like when it comes to like practicing the game, I guess like
Hmm.
uh, is your like would you say your practice is more like in game or out of game type of stuff? Like, because I think you know something more in game, I guess, would be like having like like a tech skill routine is like is a
Hmm.
common like thing
Yep.
versus like I think an out of game thing is more like just kind of like playing I don't know like maybe playing friendlies or playing unranked nowadays on Slippy maybe and like trying to just keep like a cool head and like you know work on being present in the game and stuff like that.
Oh, I see what you mean. I misunderstood you at first. Yeah, I that has changed. When I started playing and up until about probably 2019,
Hmm.
I pretty much practiced in game and I did a lot of technical practice and I was doing a lot of labbing.
Hmm.
I could still do more labbing. I think we can all
Oh
benefit from
yeah,
a
I
little
think so
bit
too.
more labbing. Um, these days, I mostly I play friendlies and I play Slippy to practice. I'm not really, and there's a number of reasons for that. The first reason is that I accumulated a lot of. We haven't talked about this yet, but I took lessons from Drug Fox for two
Hmm.
years, um, and I accumulated a lot of knowledge
Hmm.
in doing that. Um, the problem is that I was not really playing as frequently as I should have been, and that has a lot to do with my schedule.
Mm-hmm.
There was a number of responsibilities that were keeping me from playing Melee super seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, that is to say, giving it a ton of time.
Mm-hmm.
But uh, but I was like labbing and I was solo practicing a lot, and I
Mm-hmm.
was doing a lot of analysis, and I was doing a lot of these things that that are like playing the game, but they're kind of solo playing the game. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't, I could have competed more. This is about this time, a little bit before this time, I was still running the stream, and there were some times where I was just like wouldn't play because I was running the stream.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, but after that, the last lesson I had with Dark Fox, we kind of met, and I was like, it was actually funny. Both of us were like, I kind of feel like we've talked about everything we need to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I kind of think that like at this point, I need to just play the game and
Start applying it.
review. Yeah, I just need to like start going, just like start grinding.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I did. And so
Mm-hmm.
like it's been really easy, especially with Sylvie now. Um, I'm right now playing more Melee than I ever have like in my life probably.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I'm playing the most diverse group of players that I've ever played. And right now I've actually seen like some of the most so right now it's the I'm playing mostly playing in the game, trying to just remain cool and just focus on what I'm doing and focus on like really just looking at what's going on. Am I aware? Am I setting reaction points? Am
Mm-hmm.
I doing all these things that are primarily mental? I'm
Mm-hmm.
not really doing tactical practice at this point
Mm-hmm.
uh, because I can do most of the things I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes down to can I just execute it? And if I can't, then I just try it a bunch of times. I just try it in game because frankly, there's no stakes on Flippy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, yeah,
I think that's a good I think that's a really important thing to like remember. It's like that I guess like as an extension of that is like the stakes in like friendlies and like out of tournament are like player defined.
yeah,
And being able to not let that be like overwhelming, but also to
mhm,
make it not so underwhelming that like you don't get anything meaningful out of it, I think is a balance that people have a lot of. I think it's actually something that is like really under discussed is like the approach to out of tournament play, like with other
yeah.
human
I would
beings,
agree.
like
I would totally agree.
because I remember for like because I've probably I would argue that I've played like close to the most melee, like not necessarily competitive, but like of like almost anybody in like SB, but I'm certainly not
Hmm.
the best, and it's for like a lot of
Hmm.
different reasons. But one of them is definitely just
Hmm.
because like I've always just kind of played to like hang out with people and stuff.
Hmm.
But other people who like wanted to use that to like get better at the game, like that time, like I mean, they improve fast if like if they've got a good like routine for it and a good approach to it.
Yeah, I mean, look at. I always think a perfect example of that is someone like Zane.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. I
Dude
think
is
yeah.
just like I
Definitely.
don't think that guy ever sits down and plays a friendly and doesn't have like a goal for that
Yeah.
friendly.
Hmm.
I genuinely don't.
Hmm.
Um, and you're right. Yeah, I think because it took me a long time to learn how to appreciate friendlies properly.
Hmm.
Like you're saying, it's player defined, and I had a really like we've just kind of touched on. I had a pretty big like ego problem,
Hmm.
and so friendlies were hard for me because I personalized the shit out of friendlies, and it was just not the right way to approach it. And so I didn't really learn as much as I should have. I was too focused on winning, and I was not focused on okay, did I do the right thing here? Did I, why did I lose that interaction? So on and so forth.
Hmm.
Um, and nowadays, that's totally different. It
Hmm.
still happens. I run into people I know on Slippy, and I am like, oh shit, I know this person, and I immediately play worse, immediately.
Hmm.
And so I have to go. I have to remind myself, be like, wait, trash him like every other rando you trash on Slippy. Just like play the same. Like it's gonna be fine. You don't
Hmm.
need to prove anything. Just play the same.
Hmm.
And that for me that's that signal of that continuous like growth thing for me. That's
Hmm.
what I've always been working on. So I'm just still doing that.
Hmm.
Um, so I totally know what you mean, and I think that it's certainly a skill. Learning how to properly play friendlies is a skill,
Yeah,
and we don't
I think
talk
so
about it
too.
much.
I think so too. I for sure agree with you.
Hmm.
I guess kind of going back a bit onto the since like you were talking about like time that you had to invest in Melee and time that you wanted to, how
Mhm.
would you say like the balance of like life, like or Melee and like non-Melee things like has been for you? Like, has that like not only like has it been like easy, hard, other words of that sort of
Right.
descriptor versus like just like more of the details of that if you're comfortable like going into that.
Yeah, totally. Um, when I first started playing, it was like I would I didn't have so I would come home from work. I worked at a coffee shop for a long time. So I'd come home from work or I'd be going to work later in that day and I'd practice and I would do like I didn't really know what to practice. So I would just practice like tech skill. I would do like dash dancing. Like I would just do tech skill. And that was probably not a good thing because I never really learned melee. You know what I mean? I just
Yeah,
learned tech
yeah,
skill. I didn't learn
yeah. You learn
the
like a
game.
very small facet of the
I
game.
learned how to move around the stage.
Yeah.
Woohoo. um, and but I did a lot of that, and I think that was very damaging actually because of how much I did. Because I spent that time not playing real people and not thinking about that. Kind of in the middle of my career, relative to now, uh, I was in a long time relationship. In a long time relationship, working full time, working part time, going to school full time, um, and running streams. So
At tournaments,
I
for anyone
was
to clarify for people.
what?
Like at tournament streams, like Melee
Yeah,
tournament streams.
running
Yeah, just
tournament
to let people
streams.
know.
So I would sneak it in where I could.
Yeah.
Yeah. At home, I didn't really have a lot of time to play. Uh, as you can imagine, people who do not like Melee find other people playing Melee near them extremely annoying. And I bet you can't imagine why. That's not a rhetorical question. The controller sounds are annoying. People don't
Yeah.
like when you play Melee in the same in like the same house as them because it's just fucking irritating. And I totally get it. So like out of respect for my partner at the time, I wouldn't play a ton of Melee. I would try to play when maybe I was home alone, stuff like that. Um, the other thing is that Melee is like super exhausting. Putting that
Oh
much
yeah, I
time and
agree.
energy
I
into
agree.
Melee is like really fucking draining. And I was already taking lessons, like 1 hour lessons, I think at the time, like 2, 3 times a month. Or rather, I had lessons twice a month, and then I had homework for those lessons. So it was like, if I didn't really want to do stuff that wasn't strictly related to what I had to do because of my time constraints. So I didn't really play as much Melee as I wanted to. I'm the kind of guy who, if you will give me like an infinite amount of time, I will go so far deep into something that I will never come out. Uh, that's just who I am as a person. I am like, I don't know. I guess you would consider it obsessive. I'm like kind of obsessive about stuff, but I find a lot of joy in being really good at things, understanding them very
Okay.
quickly. Um, so pretty much throughout my career, I've wanted to just do nothing but play Melee so that I can improve and get better. At this point now, I've learned there is a level of efficiency that needs to be maintained where you can only play so much Melee before it stops being useful to you and perhaps starts even being damaging to your ability. So these days, I play as much Melee as I want to. I am a full-time student now, so I have like basically my responsibilities are pretty minimal compared to where they've been for the past 5 years of my life, and I'm loving it. And
That's
Slippy
awesome.
makes it easy. I'm at
Yeah.
home all day because we've had a pandemic, so I just load up my Slippy on my computer and I just run some games. I'll like take 5 minute study breaks. I'll just run 5 minutes. Sorry to the guy that I quit out on halfway through my game every time, but like you just play for 5 minutes, and there's something super valuable about that because you can concentrate so closely for those 5 minutes, and I am really grateful for that at this point.
Yeah. Finding efficiency in your playtime and not just thinking that quantity and quality are like going to be like directly correlated
Hell no.
is like I think a huge like pitfall of like people trying to get better at most things, but definitely
Hmm.
melee as well.
Hmm.
Like for example in OS, like it's kind of a meme that like whenever someone says like how do I get better at this, like people just say play more, and it's like people find it annoying because like that's just like worthless like advice on its own in a way, but
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, like to get better at the game or like to get better at anything, like you know, game, sport, like hobby, whatever,
Hmm.
like you generally have to like do it. Like if you want to get better at like
Yep.
something in melee, like you do have to play the game, but like
Yep.
playing the game doesn't mean you're getting better at those things. Like
Yep.
it's an yeah.
Yep.
So I super
So,
relate to like have like because when I was playing melee the most, I think was actually when I was improving the like day to day, sort of like week by week, like you know whatever increment you want to measure it in,
right.
the least because
Hmm.
I was just like the majority of my time playing it was just so like mindless, I guess, and like it
Hmm.
became hard to not play it mindlessly. Like even when I
Hmm.
would really try to focus in tournament, I could feel like I would just like run into like mental blocks, and I was like I can't like focus on the game.
Yep.
So I feel you there. Um,
One of the one of my in my mind, my one of
mhm,
my career defining moments for me was, or rather, a moment I learned a lot from,
mhm,
was the first day of Genesis last year.
mhm,
Um, was first day of tournament. My pools were at like 5. I don't know. I had a late pool and it
mhm.
sucked. And I'll tell
Yeah.
you why it sucked.
Mhm,
It sucked because I played melee all day.
mhm,
And by the end of the day, I was like, I was a zombie,
mhm,
you know? And I was out. I was like, I had played everything I could play. And it's, it, it's something that as a competitor, you have to recognize that you have a limit. You need to know those limits. And you can't just play forever. Like,
mhm,
you're just hurting yourself at a certain point.
mhm. Yeah,
Hmm.
I agree.
Yeah.
Would you? Okay. Um, so kind of going back to like tournaments and stuff. How would
Yeah.
you say? Like, what are the skill? Like, okay. Um, what do you think are skills that are important specifically to playing melee in tournament? And like, what are your opinions on those things? Like, I think that the most obvious example is like handling tourney nerves and stuff. But I
Hmm.
think that there's like a set of soft skills that like are important for tournament, but like people don't talk about as much about like being good at the game. And I'm curious if you have like any input or thoughts on that.
Repeat the first part of your question.
So I guess like things that you need to be a good tournament player that people
Uh-huh.
don't necessarily think of as things that you need to be a good melee player.
Right.
I
Oh
guess
yeah.
is maybe a more straightforward way.
Food and water. Those are priority number one. Drink enough and eat enough.
Mm-hmm.
Also, don't just eat. Drink enough water.
Mm-hmm.
Eat enough of a well-rounded diet. And oh, three, sleep enough.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, if I ever hear one of my friends complain about how well they performed and they didn't check those 3 boxes, I have no, what's the word? I have no sympathy for them.
Mm-hmm.
They did it to themselves. Um, Regardless of what you're trying to perform in, period, you need those 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
And we as gamers ignore those 3 things.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
we do not discuss those 3 things enough. We sit in chairs for hours at a time. We damage our sleep schedules. We eat like shit. We drink fucking whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you gotta get enough food, get enough water, and you gotta get enough sleep. So those are like that's the first thing that I think is super important.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I consider those soft skills. I do consider all 3 of those things soft skills. Nutrition's a soft skill. Drinking enough water, not really. But what do you call it? But getting enough sleep is certainly a skill. I think it can be really hard for some people, especially. Um, okay, but kind of memey answer aside, like I think that what I don't see talked about enough. Well, okay, really, just the discussion around competition as a whole in melee is like chat's going off right now. It's like kind of bad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Only until I got really involved in the community that surrounds the Drug Fox lessons
Hmm.
did I start to become very aware of like the things that top players are conscientious of
Mm.
versus the things that like normal players are conscientious of. And this is not even with regard to the game.
Mm.
Um, I actually think something you said earlier made me think about this, and like one of the biggest things that I got out of taking lessons was not game related. It was just like perspective.
Mm.
It was just like recognizing what's important as a person.
Mm.
Uh, so tournament nerves is yeah like a super obvious answer. You just gotta whatever everybody has like an issue with nerves, whether it's their ego, whether it's like they are just plain they have performance anxiety,
Mm.
whether it's uh or they get tilted,
Mm.
like figuring out those reasons for a person is like you could be awesome, but if you let the Marth player who grabs you and chain grabs you three stocks in a row tilt you, it's over. He's in your head. Like you're done. Even if you're in top eight, like you're gonna lose to Mewtwo King there.
Mm.
You know, because he's gonna just chain grab you to death four times,
Mm.
and you're just gonna be repetitive, and you're not gonna think about it anymore. Um, the other like the soft skills that I think about are I mean a lot of them can are in a way game related, I think. So I
Mm.
think I have kind of touched the things that I think are really important.
Okay.
Um, anything else? I think if you satisfy all those the things that I just talked about, like
Mm.
you should be able to be like a decent player.
Mm.
I mean, I wouldn't consider even myself at that. You know, I would consider myself I can satisfy those things, but you know, there's still that you still have to be able to beat other people.
Yeah, of course. Like the gameplay, you
Yeah,
still need to have the gameplay to back it up. It's like these
still
are
need to be
just,
able to play the
yeah.
game.
It's like a lot of different things go into winning a game, winning a set, taking a stock, like, whichever level
Hmm.
you want to put it on, winning a tournament.
Right.
And like, there's a different distribution of like importance in like every situation, even. Like,
Hmm.
sometimes in there, like, I think like your gameplay matters more for like in a game that goes to last stock, I think personally, like, getting
It's
to there is determined by like the gameplay, but once you're in the last stock situation, like it's more about like handling the pressure in my head. Like
absolutely,
that's how I've always
absolutely.
felt. Is like the player who
Oh yeah.
just is able to like keep a cooler head, can win with like even if like their gameplay the whole set or like the whole game has been like
Yeah.
worse. Like,
This is funny. I actually like someone I think is an awesome example of this is Johnny,
mm,
Jamu. Like I could take that guy to last stock, and he is like the Terminator at that last stock. Like he does not. I can't think of a time where that guy spaghettis on his last stock. I just can't. And he, like that, he handles that pressure
mm,
super well, and that's not the case for a lot of players.
yeah, I think yeah, it's definitely some people definitely crumble and some people definitely like can like just
Hmm.
like they really hold the line.
Yeah,
Um,
you see amazing players. You see top 10 players just spaghetti the shit out of a last stock
mhm,
situation. And that's just like, it just happens. I mean, no matter what 1v1 game you watch,
mhm,
when two players get up and shake hands, their hands are shaking.
mhm,
They're nervous wrecks.
mhm,
Like the adrenaline is so high in that moment.
mhm.
And so like you almost can't blame people for for breaking under that pressure, but it is what decides the winner,
Mhm.
whoever breaks less.
Yeah, yeah, I can kind of agree with that. That's like,
Yeah, and so I
oh, you go ahead.
yeah I so those things I talk about I sort of see as like that's the foundation, right? Like if you can do all those things, then you only have to worry about the game. You only have to worry about playing.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
that's all. Then yeah, otherwise then you just have to worry about those things.
Hmm. I think that I forget who it was, but someone told me. I remember at one point, I think it was literally a random at like, well, I mean, I say a random, but like it was literally someone I just like don't even know at like it was at Shine 2018, 2017
Hmm.
maybe. I think it was Shine 2018. I think that was the one I went to, or like one of the ones I went to. And I remember someone I was playing with told me something that I thought was like really interesting, and they said like because it was me at a setup with two other people, and one of the people said like God, like they're just like complaining so much about like their like execution being off and like
Yeah.
all this like various like mechanical stuff, and the guy said like man, like it must be nice for the thing that's holding you back to be like, your tech skill and your execution. And like the person was just kind of like, what do you mean? He's like, and the other person's kind of like, what do you mean? Like it sucks. Like it feels so bad. And
Yeah.
he's like, well, I feel like, that's like the culminate. Like I'm kind of making it sound a little bit more decorated than it was. But like basically what I took away
Right.
from it was he was kind of just trying to say like, um, it's really like your gameplay is kind of more an expression of like your mental like all of your the mental and like preparatory factors like
Hmm.
when he just said that like uh it must be nice that like when that's the thing that's like holding you back. I was like, damn, like kind of it's kind of true. Like I can kind of see that because a lot of those like I think stem from other things like bad execution being like sometimes it's just you need to practice more, but sometimes it's like you're just nervous or you're just tilted or you're just focusing on the wrong things.
Or you're just tired.
Yeah, or you're just tired.
I
Yeah.
can I can't even count the amount of times that I would go to an event after I'd worked a shift at the coffee shop where I'm working with my hands all day,
Hmm.
or I went to a tournament after spending a couple hours climbing, where
Hmm.
I'm using my hands the whole time, roughing up my hands. I can't fucking play the game at all.
Hmm.
My hands are just gone. Like my hands are just too tired.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like it's just there's a lot of reasons that could be the case.
Hmm.
And uh, you know, compl- it's that thing too, or the thing about tech skill too is it's really easily identified and easily rectified.
Hmm.
You just got to do it again and again.
Yeah. It's one
But
of
like
the
there becomes a point where that's not what you're worried about anymore, and now
yeah
it's
applying it
far
the
less
right way and
concrete.
stuff. Yeah.
Right now, it's far less concrete what you have
Hmm.
to worry about.
Yeah. It's like that's like part of the I think that's part of the bliss of being a new player that a lot of people don't include like because everyone likes to talk about like, oh, you're less competitive, everything's new, and like there's the novelty of it, which obviously I think is a part of it, but I also think a part of it that's so nice is that the things that you need to work on are so obvious first like when
Mhm.
you're getting into the game, and there's like something that's really I think blissful about enjoying that period where like it's so easy to look at your gameplay and say, "Oh, I need to work on this." Because when you hit that point
Right.
where you're like, "What's holding me back?" I think that that really is a turning point for people's relationships with the game a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. Um, I would definitely agree. And I think I do also think though that Melee is kind of cursed in a way,
Mhm.
uh, because of the level of complexity that it operates on.
Mhm.
And that is to say you have to worry about these like really raw technical qualities that are required for you to even perform things, just even to perform like a combo. You have to be able to execute in a specific way, especially if you're playing an execution heavy character.
Mhm.
And you also then have to learn and worry about spacing, risk reward,
The options your opponent is
coverage,
picking.
options your opponent is picking, habits, player tendencies,
Mhm.
like reads versus reactions.
Mhm.
Ver- Compared to like a traditional fighting game where you only have to worry about the last things I talked about, it's fucking hard, man.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people who spectate this game have no idea
Mhm.
what it's like.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
And especially if they don't come from a fighting game background.
Mhm.
Um, it's been kind of eye opening. I've been learning fighting games recently. It's been very eye opening
Like 2D
to
fighters and
recognize.
stuff.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I've been learning 2D fighters. I've been playing 2D fighters for a long time,
Mhm.
but I'm like seriously learning 2D fighters right now.
Mhm.
And it's been very eye opening to see how much less I have to think about
Mhm.
on a regular basis when playing those games.
Mhm.
it's certainly like a little bit overwhelming still. Like I still am like, oh fuck, I gotta like learn this block string and the timings are all fucking crazy and I gotta
Mm.
like
The
practice
inputs
this
can
over and
be,
over again.
yeah, the inputs can
Yeah,
be
I've
like
practiced like
it's a lot
I've
more
practiced like the
sequences of
same
like
thing.
longer. Yeah.
Right, I've practiced like the same thing for like 5 days straight and I'm just like slowly piecing it all together.
Mm. Yep.
But I ultimately don't have to worry about a lot of things compared to when I have to think about melee.
Hmm.
The mental process is so much smaller, and that's awesome. If an opponent jumps at me, I have to do like two things, and in each one of those things has a very concrete reason why I'm doing it.
Hmm.
That's not the case in melee.
Hmm.
No, never, almost never is that the case,
Hmm.
and I think that's awesome.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
that's one of the things that makes it. I think that's one of the things that makes it so addictive. Like I think Nunn put it well, calling it like an analog game instead of a digital game. Like there's a
hmm,
lot of that. There's a lot of that in like Melee's all about like the in between, and
yeah.
like quite literally, like just like the timings,
It's
the movements. Like you can the fact that you can walk at so like just move laterally at so many
hmm
different speeds in Melee already sets it so far apart from like so
yes,
many other games.
yeah, yeah. It's also kind of infuriating. I mean, it makes it very hard to figure out whether or not you made the right decision,
Hmm.
and you just lost
Yeah,
the
like maybe
deci-
they
the
just picked
dec-
a better option, but you still picked a
Yeah,
good
it's
one.
super hard. It like analyzing this game is a nightmare because every time you're like, every time an interaction occurs, you have to go, okay, did I just lose this interaction or is what I did objectively wrong? And
Hmm.
it's hard to say whether or not that's the case because of the things we just talked
Hmm.
about.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go. So there's a bunch of viewer questions already, like a
Yeah,
bunch.
go for it.
But before we do that, there's one last question I want to ask you. Like one last,
Okay.
like I call it the last planned one, which is
Ask
like
me as many questions as you want.
I want to
I'll
know
be here all night.
your what for you, if there is one, was like the golden era of SB Melee, if there is one. Doesn't have to be.
Man, the golden era of SB Melee for me was post. This is kind of ironic actually. It was post GSL.
Hmm.
It was when we started. It was when I was TOing Zotos, and it was also the period up until like the coronavirus.
Hmm.
Um, I love Zotos. I
Hmm.
love that venue. I had a great time there every single time.
Hmm.
And I am honestly I'm sad more people didn't come.
Yeah, I mean it was a dope.
I'm
It was
sad
a
we
dope
didn't have a
venue.
full fu- I'm sad we didn't have a full house every fucking night because it was like I wish I could have afforded to pay for people because it was like such a great space for us.
I agree. It was a super good. It was a super dope venue.
Um and it was just like it was just a great time. Um I didn't have to worry about streaming anymore. I just
Hmm.
TO'd.
Yep.
And that allowed me to play. And I like I liked TOing. I liked being in like I kind of naturally gravitate toward leadership roles.
Hmm.
And I liked being in that position. We had quite a few people who were new to the scene at the time.
Hmm.
I was um, I mean, maybe I actually didn't end up making an impression on them, but I hope I was trying. I was like really trying to be like a good
Hmm.
host. I was really trying to be a good host. One thing I think we've lacked for a long time is a good host. Uh, I think that like we are constantly struggling with outreach, and we are constantly struggling with uh, just getting players to attend, much less obtaining like getting new people to come. And I think a lot of that is falls on the shoulders of the people. I mean, it does fall on the shoulders on the people who are running events.
Hmm.
And I think people who are running events should go out of their way to greet everybody, to make sure they had a good time, to ask what can be done better, and to honestly make sure that people who came up and went O2 still had a good time even though they went 0-2.
Hmm.
Going
Oh, guys, we're in luck. We got a second Discord crash. Can I get some pogs in the chat for the second Discord crash? All right, you're a lucky guy, Austin. We're getting some good luck streaks recently with the Discord
we
crashes.
back.
Yep, we're back.
Now we back. Now we back. Now we back. Now we back.
All right, so if
My
you want,
Chance the Rapper impression. Um, yeah, I think this is. I'm not throwing shade at anybody. Honestly, I'm really not. I don't
yeah,
think
I don't.
I have no like specific person in mind or anything like that. I just like. I know that the effort put in is usually usually directly correlated to the amount of feedback you get,
Hmm.
and it's super easy to retain players if you just make people feel like they want to come every week.
Hmm.
Really,
Yeah.
that simple. They don't need to win. If people, especially new players, if people lose, and you go, I saw you went 0-2 tonight. Do you want to try to figure out why? Are you kidding me? I wish somebody had said that to me when I went 0-2.
Hmm.
I wish someone had said that to me in my first few tournaments. Like that would be an amazing thing to do. And maybe that's just me. I don't know. Maybe I'm like fucking. I care too much about the game.
Hmm.
But like having somebody who actually isn't like invested in you coming means a lot, and people will come because of that. I kind of got on like a tangent here
That's fine. That's
because
fine.
I was supposed to be talking about the golden age
No,
of
that's
melee,
fine. That's totally
or
fine.
the golden age of SV melee. But my point was that I really liked doing that, and I wish that we had all done that. All of the other TOs rather had done more of that.
Hmm.
And if I just didn't see it, then excuse me for being ignorant.
Yeah. No, I don't.
Um,
I think what you say is pretty valid. I think
yeah,
there's been, like, I think I was because I remember when I was the head TO person, like I tried to do a lot of that, but it was really broad. Like it was the most personal thing I would do is my goal was to like sit down and play with like every person who attended a tournament. Like I
hmm
wanted to just like sit down next to them, play with them, because I feel like if the at least for me at the time, like when someone in the scene that seemed like they had some sort of degree of some like a more established role, like someone that people in the scene kind of knew and recognized, like
hmm
uh, playing with a person like that when I was just getting into the scene, like made me feel like I was kind of, more a part of the scene than I really objectively was. Like just because it's like,
hmm
oh, like there's usually like kind of a barrier of entry to like getting to interact with those kinds of people in any community.
yeah,
Like you can't just show up to like a baseball game and be like, hey, I want to talk to like the catcher, like I want to talk to the
right,
pitcher. Like you can't just do that. But
right,
like in melee, like you can just show up and you can talk to like the person who's like rank 1 on the PR there. You can talk to like the
yeah,
person running the tournament. Like,
yep,
I think that like that was something that I tried to do, but I didn't really like. It was at the time I was more focused on like the competitive aspect and like increasing like the production quality, making people want to come out of region,
right.
because at the time it was just I think more competitive, and
hmm I would
less
agree.
like super friendly and stuff.
Yeah, I
But
would agree.
yeah, like at the time, like I think I was just kind of going at it really broadly, like making like Facebook posts and like kind of addressing like people as a whole and not so personally. So
Yeah,
I agree with you. I think it's hard, but I think it is super worthwhile because yeah, at the end of the day, people come because they enjoy they see that it's worth their time to
yeah,
like over other things,
yeah,
and there's a lot of ways to do that. And if you kind of tunnel vision on only one of those ways, then you're gonna miss out on a lot of other people.
yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, look, like i- at the end of the day, we're there to have fun, and like
Yeah,
my
definitely.
most memorable times of playing melee are, honest to God, getting the shit beat out of me again and again by Yink. I
Mhm.
just had the best fucking time doing it because I just enjoy playing melee
Mhm.
with Yink. I just love playing melee with him.
Mhm.
It's just a good fucking time. He's doing sick as fuck shit. I'm doing sick as fuck shit. Like it's just cool.
Mhm.
And it's like it doesn't. We're still concerned about the things that a competitor is concerned about.
Mhm.
He and I would sit down and he'd be like, okay, you can't get hit by that. We talk about why. We talk about what to do around it, and we'd still be practicing. But it's like I'm still just like having a good time,
Mhm.
and that's like I cherish that feeling because I don't feel that with so many people, and I can't say why, but like that is in my mind that is like the distillation of what everybody's experience should want to be with Melee. You just have a good fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
You just like no matter who wins, you're still focused on what's going on and you have a great time and you're still worried about being like the best you can be.
Mm-hmm.
So that was all I was trying to really to really like get across when
Mm-hmm.
when I was running events. And so the time after that too was also, in my mind, good for me because I just had more opportunities to play.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I think
and
that's a lot of fun.
the scene was really static at that point. Like I think when I first entered, especially around the time like toward the end of Hillel, people were like not showing up all the time. People were leaving. Like it was kind of very amorphous. At least it felt that way to me. Um, but then toward that period after, like toward the GSL, and then once I started streaming, and then slightly after that, like it was really the same core group of people throughout that entire period. So I really was able to take the time to get to know everybody and become
Mm-hmm.
closer to them. And um, yeah,
Yeah. All right, let's get through this laundry list of viewer questions because there are a
okay,
lot. So,
okay.
Jamu opening the floor with biggest Chic inspiration.
Um, for a long, I've always admired. Fuck. Oh no, not now. Who's the Canadian Chic player?
Kirby Kaze?
Yeah, Kirby Kaze. Big Kirby Kaze fan. Um, for a long time. I think when it comes to how to play Sheik in the neutral and how to play Sheik in a non-tech chase sense, he was my inspiration for a long time, still is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, since then, I really do have to shout out my sensei, Drug Fox. Like that dude, I basically learned how to play how I play right now through our lessons, and I watch his Sheik constantly to refer back to to refer back to just how I feel like at this point is one of the best ways to play Sheik.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. I think you kind of touched on this, but Johnny also asked your favorite practice partner, past or present.
Yeah. Um, my favorite practice partner in the past, when we used to play really regularly, was my brother.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he and I really, I feel like he and I really challenged each other. Um, my brother is really honest with me. I think we're really honest with each other. Um, but I think he's like really honest with me, and I credit him with helping me really figure out my approach to the game
Mm-hmm.
from a mental perspective and from like a playstyle perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Marth is one of my best matchups and one of my favorite matchups because of him.
Mm-hmm.
My I think my second favorite my other favorite practice partner is Crisp. Uh, Crisp. I don't think anyone has challenged me as frequently in the few times that we have played, like regularly,
Mm-hmm.
uh, as him. Um, Crisp and Johnny and Jamu and I had really regular practice sessions. We would practice once a week on Tuesdays, and we would do like reviews, and we would talk about it. Uh, so I mean, both of them were like really integral practice partners of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is no shade to Johnny. I think just Chris challenged me like a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that can come down to a lot of factors.
Yeah,
Um,
there's nothing personal about that
yeah,
statement,
of
so I hope
course.
he doesn't take it that way if he's watching.
Yeah, of course. And then I guess that's because you mentioned Marth and stuff. Favorite and least favorite
Hmm.
matchups.
Marth is probably my favorite matchup. My least favorite matchup is a tie between Falco and Luigi.
That's the SB special right there.
If I never had to play a Luigi again in my entire life, I would be so grateful.
Yeah.
But on the same by the on the same on the other side of the coin, because I hate that matchup so much, I love destroying fucking Luigi's. Oh
Mm,
my god, that was the most satisfying feeling on the fucking planet. Mm.
good
Mm.
answer. Good answer. Very
Chest
SP
kiss,
answer.
dude.
Very
Mwah.
SP answer. Um, so, and then another question is one tip for watching your own VODs back as someone who has experience with structured analytical lessons.
Okay. One tip.
Hmm.
Fuck.
One tip.
I could write fucking essays on this topic. Don't go too deep into the details.
I agree.
Look for repetitions. Look for high impact situations, and look for bad habits. That's it.
Mm,
Those three things. Focus on those three things. Oh, also do this is I guess it's not one tip anymore, but just take it one step at a time. You don't need to do everything at once. Just
mm,
find one thing, find what seems like the most valuable thing, and just worry about that.
mm.
That's it.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
move on. Fix it. Move on to the next thing. But don't move on to the next thing until you fix it.
Mm. That's good. That's good. I like that. I like that a lot. All right. Another question is these are all from Johnny, by the way. Is you got
Yeah, I'm
tortilla
seeing them.
chips? Do you want hummus or salsa?
With tortilla chips, salsa.
All right. There you go. Sam Elzonto asks, go to drink at a cafe.
Oh, go to. Okay. I read that as a sentence without an apostrophe. I read that as a sentence very differently.
Yeah,
So I
I know
was
what
really
you're saying. Yeah,
confused
yeah.
by
Like, do you want to type of thing.
it.
Yeah,
I was like, is this a? Are you asking me on a date?
yeah.
Because the answer is yes.
Of course.
Go to drink at a cafe is a. There are two answers to the question. My favorite drink, I'll probably just. I would prefer usually to just get a cappuccino. Um, if you ever want to figure out, does a cafe know what it's doing? You have to order three things or two. You can order two, you can order two things. You order a drip coffee, whatever size you want, and you order a shot of espresso, and you can get it as a macchiato or you just get a straight espresso. You that's the litmus. It's called the litmus test. So if you get those two things, and you are pretty much able to judge whether or not a cafe knows how to make coffee.
Okay. I'm not a coffee drinker at all, so I like this is news to me. I like it though.
Mm-hmm. That's
Um,
just useful.
so Johnny asks, favorite latte art shape in parentheses.
Uh, I like Rosettas the most. If for those unfamiliar, a Rosetta is why I don't know. You know what? Google it. There you
There you
go.
go. Good, good, very good description.
Yeah.
Very good description. I agree. Um, so Sam asks, who from the scene do you most enjoy talking about game mechanics and meta?
Honestly, um,
I think that's a really hard question. I read that and I honestly have like no idea what my answer to that is. Like, cause I think of my own answers to these as well, but I just obviously am not the one
hmm
that's answering them.
no, but yeah, I mean, I would too. I don't. I'm not gonna lie. This isn't real. I don't. I'm trying. I don't. I want to. I have to preface and say I don't. I'm not trying to be like narcissistic by saying this, but like I don't think anybody in the scene talks very well about mechanics or meta. Uh, but I think that's just because of the way that I see everything. I see the game.
Hmm.
I don't have like I can't think of the last time I had like a very in-depth conversation with anybody about the meta, about mechanics, or about the meta. Um, so I don't know what that answer would be.
Hmm.
I do find that a lot of the times that I discuss mechanics or meta with anybody, I find that there are like very heavy biases in the way that they discuss topics, the way that they discuss those things. and so it's kind of hard to take people seriously a lot of the time.
Okay.
Um, uh, yeah, I don't want to sound like an asshole by saying that, but I feel like I kind of end up doing it anyway.
That's a fine answer. I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any issue with that. Like, I don't know if somebody asked me certain questions about like, what do I like? If someone asked me that about like writing, I would say I don't really have anyone because I feel like most people don't
Yeah,
make it interesting most of the time. But
yeah,
that's
it's
fine.
like,
That's like it can be more of a personal thing. Like I think the way you answered it is more personal than like qualif like qualitative, really.
yeah, I would agree with that. I think that, like, I mean, I think it's really hard to have those sorts of conversations and not be biased about it. And I'm not saying that I'm not.
Hmm.
I just find that a lot of people have like tinted glasses
Hmm.
and they don't realize it.
Okay.
Yeah. Even top players.
Hmm. Okay. So Johnny asks now, you want a snack, sugary or salt? Do you reach for something sugary or salty?
Salty.
Okay, I was not expecting you to say sugary. If you said that, I would have honestly, I feel like my perception of you would have like shattered a little bit.
Well, I'm glad I didn't shatter any
Yeah.
perception with that one.
This one from Sam I think is cool. Dude, these questions honestly popped off. These are so many. These are such good questions in my opinion.
Yeah.
What's your favorite nature or nature-ish site and location?
I'm not sure how specific I should be with this question. So I'm gonna go broad and then I'm gonna narrow it down. My favorite natural setting are mountains.
Hmm.
My favorite nature-ish site is, if we're talking like a very easy to describe, like a well-known thing, Yosemite.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd love to go to a natural park or a national park. I haven't actually been to one, and I really want to, even though I've been like all over the country.
Damn.
Yeah.
Uh, I would say if there are two places you can go in your life that I've been, go to Yosemite, go to the Big Island of Hawaii.
Okay.
Fuck the other islands. Don't go
Haven't.
there.
All right. Haven't been to either of those, so I'll definitely keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Um, and then I think that the I think that there's like two more questions. Uh, okay, hold on. Uh, Fabergé, Evan is asking, who wins in a fight? One of each Pokemon or 1 billion lions?
I can't even read this guy's name.
I know. That's
Who wins in a fight? One of each Pokemon or 1 billion lions? That's so many lions. Are you kidding me?
all right. All right.
Your mind can't even comprehend how many lions that is.
It's true. Our brains are not good at numbers that big. We just haven't had to use them practically for those reasons.
Yeah.
All right, and I think that that is all of the questions that people had, unless there's any last second ones. But
No, man. You guys are crazy. This is, bro. Go look up how big a billion is, dude. Are you kidding? Drake, Johnny, y'all are nuts. A, po- a Pokemon? Are you kidding me? One of each Pokemon. There's 700 Pokemon. Okay, one of them is God. Granted, one of them is God.
God
But
of
like,
Pokemon,
but like, there's 1 million,
1 billion.
1 billion lions. Like, it. I'm gonna just assume that at that scale, lions are able to coordinate. Wait, lions are able to coordinate at any scale. They're smart creatures. So yeah, the lions are able to coordinate. They, no, it's the lions, dude. Easy, lions, easy.
All right. I don't want to derail this into the Lions versus Pokemon podcast, but I will let you. Clearly, you guys have a lot of a lot of steam to air out
It
right
was
now in the
a
chat.
heated
So
topic.
yeah, but I had a really good time talking about all this stuff with you.
Yeah, man.
I always really enjoy like where the conversations go with each with each person, like because I kind of ask really similar questions, but it takes, I don't know, they all go in very different directions and stuff, which is
Mm-hmm.
nice. But yeah, I had a really good time, and I hope that you also enjoyed this and had a really good
Yeah, I
time.
did. I feel like I have a lot to talk about when it comes to Melee, and I don't think enough people ask me.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm an authority, but like I think I know enough to be able to share some things, and
Hmm.
I know enough to be able to teach some people things
Hmm.
who might even arguably be considered better than me,
Hmm.
um, if that even matters. I don't know. It does to some people.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm glad. So thank you for inviting me to come on here. I appreciate it,
Yeah, totally.
and I'm glad I got to talk about it. And I
Hmm.
hope that there's an opportunity for it in the future.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean I might do like I mentioned before, like group interviews or some, or like group episodes. I say
Yeah,
interviews. I mean I don't want them to feel like interviews, even though they a little bit are. But that's not. I don't think that's a bad thing. That's just kind of not how I want to think about it as much. But
it's more like
some,
a roundtable
yeah,
discussion, you know.
yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, thanks again. I
of course.
appreciate it. It was a really good time. And thanks
Yeah,
chat
thanks for
for
having me
some
on.
banger questions.
Thanks, chat.
Mm,
Love you, boys.
yep. All right. Peace out.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yep.
Take
No
care.
problem. You too.